Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between the Sons of Sigmar and the Dark Elves. It's going to be myself with Marcus Wolfhart facing off against Nerexa, who is going to be rocking LOKHIR Felheart in this duel of very off-meta builds. I'm going to be coming in with a mass handgunner build with double nets, trying to lock things down and get that sweet, sweet firepower with my handgunners, and my opponent is going to be using good old LOKHIR Felheart, kind of a Sigbal type character, and a bunch of shades, which I think are kind of a niche pick here on this map, which is very cool. They can get some very solid angles, like camping out right here, creeping up, sniping down my high-value targets, and really laughing it up. So this is going to be a fun one. I believe he does also have double caster, so we have a Shadows caster with Melkoths, and another Shadow caster with Pit of Shade. So pretty fun stuff indeed. We'll get this party started here. Like I said, my army's going to be handgunner focused with spears in the front. We do have double nets, a light wizard who does also have a sniping spell. Just in case you find a caster who's isolated, you can use like a Shem's Burning Gaze to pick it off and a blasting scroll and get a nice snipe in a clutch moment. So I do think that those spell combos are worth bringing. Here on this side, we do have Silver Bullets, a couple Empire Knights. Empire Knights are very much a staple in this matchup. They do lose against Golden Knights pretty decisively in combat, but even still, if you can find some like isolated Dark Elf troopers, maybe some Shades who get caught out in the open, you can get some work done for sure. So Shade's very, very scary. They're going to be posturing up on the points. We'll do a little bit of fast forwarding while both armies move into position here. Shade's going to be open firing here in just a second against my old, yeah, I think I did see them pop out here. So I pull the spears back and I move my Silver Bullets forward. So Silver Bullets will hopefully be able to return the favor. We'll see, although some of the Shades, I believe, are shooting at the Spearmen. Hopefully Silver Bullets will trade. We'll find out. Come on, fire, reload, fire. I think the Shades actually end up going invisible again, so I don't get to shoot them. Yeah, it was some funny business like that. They like re-stealthed because I was out of range. Now, on the side, nobody's really gotten too crazy yet. Marcus moving up and just taking some pot shots at the Shades here. And the Mighty Huntsman, unfortunately, doesn't take down a single model. I do try and juke him, but he eats a little bit of shade fire. Over here, it looks like there was a slight exchange. Both our units do have that kind of invisible state, and Silver Bullets do have stock, and so do Shades. So bit of a funny standoff right there. But now the Shade's going to be focusing in pretty hard, trying to juke with my characters, making sure I don't get popped. And the Shades do have 130 range against my handgunners who are 145. So I should be able to move them up and get some work done. We will have to see. And I do like the call-in for my opponent here, which is going to be a Reaper Bolt Thrower to just put perpetual pressure in spray fire mode down on my handgunners. So taking a lot of damage out of the gates. Certainly been a little bit of a stronger opening here for the Druki. On this side, nothing too crazy going down. Granted, I'm kind of camping my Light Wizard right here in case the Shades pop up to get some shots. My game plan was to like net them and then cap charge them and shoot at them, so we'll see how that works. Call-in for us is going to be a mortar. Mortar fire is pretty consistent damage against the old Dark Elves here, and I'm hoping the shields on my State Troopers will be able to hold pretty firm. It's a good trade for us. We do get these guys a little bit beat up, so the Shade's getting shot by the Silver Bullets, so I rip a couple volleys, and what I then do is I get the Empire Knights from reserve. Sound the horn! The charge of Sigmar is upon us! So we shoot him a couple times over, getting big, big damage, and now the Empire Knight's going to run in, and we are going to take out a Shade unit outright, which is good. Response from my opponent, though, is quite solid. Bit of Shades on the other side is going to be tearing through the State Troopers, so they are pretty much going to get one-shotted, but it's still an expensive spell to try and take down a handgunner, but at the end of the day, I do think it's worth it. So unfortunately, we're just kind of getting blasted on the objective. I was a little bit apprehensive about moving my handgunners up. I didn't know if there were more Shades waiting to ambush, so we both get pretty cost-effective trades, right? I take down a Shade here, my Silver Bullets are shooting at one of the casters, doing good HP damage, and now we retreat back while the Dark Elves look like they're going to want to push on this side as well. So we do see the Blackheart Corsairs, as well as the Golden Knights looking to move towards Objective 2. But we do have two mortars out on the field, which are going to be getting really, really solid, steady damage. I do retreat back. We are up in value, so at the end of the day, the trading maybe did go slightly better for us, so taking out a Shade unit pretty much outright, doing good damage against one of the casters here. And now that caster is going to be getting blasted even more, which is great. But big Dark Elf push coming in, ladies and gentlemen, on this side. Blackheart Corsairs will dominate my spears. It's not going to be an easy peel. Marcus Wolfhart going to be maneuvering over, getting ready to kind of cover this open field with a little bit of net pressure. And we do try and snipe this character, granted. The Spear Riders do advance. Empire Knights and Spears going to be countercharging. And though my guns will get compromised here a bit, the Empire Knights in tandem with the Spears should trade okay, but very nice Melkoths. Melkoths will do very respectable damage. But the old Golden Knights, yeah, having a bit of a problem. But I need to get some reinforcements in here, stat. We call them the Halberdiers of Sigmar. Gun's going to be turning about face. So the handgunner's going to be nuking away at the Blackheart Corsairs with handbows here. While in the middle, it's a little bit scary. And you know why? It's because I can't really deal with LOKHIR Felheart super effectively. And my infantry, of course, will be losing against Dark Elf infantry. The powder support is good, though. We have a couple handgunners back here, providing a little bit of steel faith and mostly gunpowder as they nuke away. Back objective being held by the Spearmen. Silver Bullets able to get back in position, so hopefully they'll be shooting here in a second at some of these units. Line of sight with gun units is always a little bit strange, as we do see the Golden Knights moving through, trying to wrap around and shut down my handgunners here in the back. So we do drop a net on them. So the Light Wizard's going to be netting those bad boys down, and then we just turn and shoot. I thought I might get caught, but I'm like, hey, let's break these Golden Knights, break their spirits and, you know, get that steel faith and gunpowder going here. So a lot of firepower, and we're pretty heavily up in value here as halberdiers do move into the Blackheart Corsairs, and more halberdiers going to be hustling over to the middle point. Meanwhile, though, the Druchii have overtaken the battlefield here. Swords of Sigmar, or the Sigmar swords, or Sigmar Sons. Man, I don't know, that was a tongue twister there. They do move up and get into combat versus Shades, and honestly will trade pretty well. Their stats are really good at 41-41. Mortar fire also doing good progressive damage. Bad for me here, though. Crows of Cain do get on top of some of the handgunners. We're forced to drop another net on these Coldwood Knights, and there's a ton of Druchii pressure all up in my backfield, so hopefully we will be able to stabilize. Now, this is the moment that you've all been waiting for. The dreaded Greatswords, the floppy hats of doom have been called in. Very risky against Dark Elves, but honestly, if they can get sustainable combat against like Dark Elf infantry, they will crush them pretty badly. But, you know, it's a matter of really protecting them from all the armor-piercing missiles and vortexes and Melkoths. There's a lot of stuff Dark Elves, or Dork Elves, I suppose, can do there. So here, Coldwood Knights grinding it out, but Pistoliers moving back and putting a little bit of pressure on them. This objective has been held by us just barely. Halberdiers have arrived. Halberdiers versus Bleak Swords is an interesting fight. Halberdiers do have super high melee defense, so they can hold them back. But even still, the Dork Elves are going to be pushing me back into a triple cap situation. And I do have a big value lead, but, you know, getting LOKHIR, I don't really have much in my army that's going to be able to effectively deal with LOKHIR, which was really, really making me sweat bullets. So Blackheart Corsairs pushing into the backfield, desperately trying to peel and salvage things as the Empire Knights do come back here. And the Corsairs should get wrecked by the steel faith and gunpowder of these cavalry here. I guess in their case, it would probably just be steel. That's the steel element of the army. Back on the objective, just barely holding it. We do get another halberd up on the point and trying to flip that cap weight. So Spearman hustling over. Come on, baby, get to that point. Give me that sweet cap weight. And it's not actually enough to flip it. So we're going to have to fight here a little bit longer. But this fight certainly isn't good for the Druchii here. We have a lot of Shades and Blackheart Corsairs in combat versus my halberdiers. We do have good armor piercing. And the Empire Knights in the backfield able to clear things out. Mortar fire putting solid damage down. These mortars currently sitting at 500 value, while these ones are sitting at about 800, which is excellent. I think mortars are a very underrated unit on both Empire as well as Vampire Coast. Even for greenskins. I mean, if the meta for greenskins wasn't so rock hard on Wurzag and there was some like correction for him, I do think that we would maybe see rock lobbers being used more often at how cheap they are and the amount of damage they can do. It's pretty nice. So Melkoth's going down on the Greatswords, which felt pretty bad, but I felt confident that they would be able to clean off Objective 2. So the Greatswords heading over there. Pistoliers clearing out the backfield, and more handgunners rallying from the back and putting a ton of pressure here on the Druchii forces. As our value lead is about 3,000, but he does have healing on LOKHIR, and I would say about 700 of my value was on LOKHIR. So that's going to be kind of diminished via healing. And also the casters who we haven't finished, that's a fair amount of value, so you know, a little bit of scary stuff. Greatsword still hustling on the point, unfortunately not able to catch their prey, but maybe they will get into combat here versus these Bleak Swords in a moment. They do have good armor against the Corsair, so we'll see what happens. As the Manticore is called in, we're going to be dropping a net on this bad boy, getting our handgunners ready, and I do have a lot of units that need to be rallied. They just kind of come back on the edge of the battlefield here. Handgunner fire still doing well. Honestly, I'm not upset with handgunners. And lately, I've been making a big effort to try and use handgunners instead of wagons, because wagons are just kind of like boring and predictable, and I feel like handgunner builds can occasionally surprise people. But the cool part about wagons is you can move, they're more maneuverable, and they still always put out DPS. It's like pretty much impossible to stop the DPS. Here we get a big alpha strike. Pistoliers and handgunners on the Feral Manticore, blasting scroll, a little bit of shooting. I guess it's not really an alpha strike. I hesitate to call it that, but we do get good, respectable damage. Here, I believe it's going to be a Pit of Shades going down. That's a great Pit of Shades from my opponent here. Going to be nailing those handgunners. Meanwhile, up on the objective, the Greatswords, you know, even if they didn't really get to fight anybody, they did get 25 kills and are now going to get me the objective back. So their presence alone is going to be enough to ward them off. Free Company Militia on the side trying to push in, intercepted by Dark Riders, but they do manage to win that fight, which was pretty cool. And now they're going to be hustling towards the point to try and make sure I get that, as heavy cav are called out. So these are going to be Zentler's Reichsguard, which are going to be pretty awesome. Manticore being tar pitted by Pistoliers. Not a great fight for Pistoliers, but I figured, hey, let's just tar pit that thing for as long as we can. And LOKHIR Felheart, man, he's being an absolute Chad. Really, really tough to anchor down here. Zentler's getting that huge erect steel charge here against the Blackheart Corsair handbows and getting nice work. But I'm starting to fall behind on points pretty substantially. Despite the you know, value lead I do have, it really, I have to say, it really didn't feel like I had a value lead. I was looking around, seeing a lot of Dark Elves, and it was certainly a little bit scary. So here we do drop a net of damage hawk on the Blackheart Corsairs, and the reason why we did that was to make sure they couldn't reinforce these Shades, and then the remnants of the Empire Knights do come back and get a respectable charge against the Shades. Might be enough to break their leadership. Now they're still confident. Not too many Empire Knights here, but the Zentler's Reichsguard come in for a hammering charge in the back against the Blackheart Corsairs, and that charge bonus was 62, really kicking in there as it's able to clear them out. So desperation times, moving Greatswords up towards Objective 3. You know, I felt the clock working against me here as the Zentler's Reichsguard Knight trying to bounce around, take engagements wherever they can, but I didn't want to be fighting LOKHIR, so I do drop the net of Marcus Wolfhart. So we net down these guys, trying to get the Reichsguard Knights out and refresh their charge bonus. Meanwhile, Mortar's still shooting away here, but the old Sorceress, like this weird Sorceress on horseback, just progressively wearing down my handgunners. Just a lot of little things going pretty well for the Dork Elves here. As the Reiksguard Knights do peel away here, Greatswords hustling to the point. And unfortunately, the Greatswords, despite having 92 models, probably going to lose to these Golden Knights, who are going to get that charge bonus of 55, 36 melee attack, and good armor piercing. So that felt bad, but we'll see what kind of damage the Greatswords are able to put on them as they do get into combat here. In the meantime, Crows of Cain have engaged against Pistoliers, Reiksguard Knights, trapped up on LOKHIR, Fellheart, and a couple Horsemen, but they will be able to wear down the Horsemen as Marcus rips a big shot right there, actually doing some good damage against the Crows. More Halberds moving up to try and make sure I don't lose the 1 point I have. And you know what? Those Greatswords actually did a respectable amount of damage against the Cold Knights, considering their very tattered state. But they are going to be folded up as a couple Spears do move towards Objective 1. So Desperation, man, moving towards those points. In the back here, we are going to see a Sorceress of Shadows going to try and shut down the Mortars. But the Mortars have already done their job. They probably both paid for themselves. This one at about 1,000 value, which is great. Handgunners called out of reserve. Going to be shooting at the Manticore here. Probably will be able to finish that thing off in due time. And yeah, we do have Objective 2, but LOKHIR's Goon Squad is moving around, and it's really tough to remove. And that is the downside of having a character like Marcus as opposed to like Karl Franz or Boris Todbringer, is in this situation, you know, Todbringer could be a hammer. He could be really moving with your infantry and getting you momentum towards the objectives, whereas Marcus is having a really hard time dealing with LOKHIR's presence, and even though LOKHIR isn't getting like crazy value, it's been really tough to like secure the objectives from him, right? Because he's always there, he's always grinding down those units. Here, the Manticore is finally going to go down to the handgunner fire, or at least shatter off the battlefield with about 100 HP, which is nice. In the back, just putting the Mortar in guard mode, basically ignoring the Sorceress, which doesn't really do much damage. And this Mortar has currently gotten about 900 value, still rallying, pushing some things back. Spearman trying to get up, but the Blackheart Corsair is able to hold those bad boys in place, while the Dark Rider Repeater Crossbows being called in is an excellent choice here from the Dark Elves. Not Karl Franz, but Marcus, you can see a shot downtown, does take down 5 models, but those guys are really, really good. And that's always been the paradigm of this matchup. It's like Coldman Knights screening at Empire Knights, while the Repeater Crossbow Cab really punished the Empire aggression. But Empire does have some nice tools with artillery and some good shooting with war wagons. And that is the meta in this matchup. It's using war wagons. Using probably 4 war wagons with like lifeblood to heal them up can absolutely annihilate Coldman Knights, Corsairs, can deal with enemy skirmishers. And at the end of the day, this was an experimental attempt with handgunners, and I have had success in some matchups, but I really just think that the old war wagons are just exponentially better than the handgunner build in this situation. Probably going war wagons with just silver bullets would be the way, I would say, because man, wagons can also roll onto objectives, provide capture weight, they can run over infantry while taking very little damage. They're just such a staple for the Empire. But handgunners blasted away though, looking extra cool while doing it. And here, Free Company Militia also moving up. Marcus Wolfhart going to be leading a charge with some halberdiers towards the back point. Desperation times, man, as we just make these heavy pushes. More Empire Knights coming in, pounding down these shades here as the Spearmen just get massacred by the Blackheart Corsairs there. It's a tough fight, but Mortars, I believe, probably eclipsing 1,000 value here, about 955. I did leave them on the same target for too long. They were just shooting at these routing spears. Should have switched the target onto like some of the Corsairs or some of the other troopers here, as the Empire Knights do get countercharged by Dark Riders. Should be an okay fight for us. As on this side, we do get some momentum here, the old Pistoliers, and I actually don't hate Pistoliers in this matchup. I often wonder about the Outriders with long rifles too. I would be interested in testing their DPS compared to like war wagons if you just let them shoot consistently, but obviously wagons are easier to keep online because they're like tanky, right? So we get some momentum here. This is kind of a fun exchange, like Corsairs versus Halberdiers isn't terrible for Halberdiers. The Corsairs will win, but I believe my guys are a little bit cheaper too, which is something to take into account, while also having utility against Dark Elf Cavalry. Handgunners maneuvering up, guys, but we're just rapidly running out of time. You know, it's 1,400 points here, and there's pretty much no capture inside on this side. So we do get a little bit of a push on this point, but ultimately the Corsair handbows are going to be able to take us down, and we are just not going to get this point. So GG, well played. Super fun match. Very scrappy, a lot of shooting, cool artillery, really awesome shade play. Cool seeing LOKHIR Fellheart, you know, a very off-meta pick being used and being very disruptive. His value wasn't great. It was probably like 500 or something, but his presence was like enough to keep me off the objective and really bully me. So good caster play too. They both paid for themselves and did solid work. So yeah, great stuff, man. I do think at the end of the day, Marcus was not that great. His nets were okay. None of them were super impactful. I think just like with this style of play, you can get like a net caster and just bring Toddy. Because then you have a big source of terror that can bully things. He heals himself. Marcus just felt underwhelming at the end of the day. The nets were not that useful. I think just the caster casting is all good. GG, well played to my opponent. He's a great elf player. Always fun to play against him. And we'll see you guys on the other side.